The next presentation is by KGP again, which is a great time. She always lifts us, and as we go into the home stretch, super excited to welcome Kristen back to the stage. She's going to talk about minding your business, learning how to be a CEO of your own book. So KGP, you there?
Hey, Dave. Hi. Thanks for having me back. You always give me such a great introduction. So thank you for that.
Oh, we're so grateful for you, and we always look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Likewise, I mean, look at all of the many people who've tuned in today. You're putting on such a great event, and I'm just honored to be here.
Well, great. Well, we'll turn it over to you. Let's hear about being the CEO of your own book.
You got it. Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be back among you today. For those who are joining us for the first time and seeing me for the first time, I'm called KGP. I'm really honored to be back here for my second year as a speaker at the CSM Summit. If you tuned in last year, you might remember hearing about how I scaled a customer success department from scratch at a SaaS startup. And this year, I'm joining the virtual stage as a senior CSM here at Client Success. So that means I'm a CSM for CSMs. Pretty intimidating. I work with absolutely amazing people just like you every day to help them scale their success operation. So basically taking what I had done previously, and now I get to do it every day with amazing professionals in the customer success community. Just a few things that you should know about me is that I'm a very driven person. I love taking initiative. I'm obsessed with results. My coworkers have told me in the past, I am buoyantly optimistic. We'll take that. We'll take that as it is. And I'm really good at setting boundaries. I'm a constant cheerleader for my coworkers, my friends. I believe in economic opportunity for everyone. And I'm here to talk today about how all of those qualities inherently make me a performing executive individual contributor. So today's session is called Mind Your Business, how to be the CEO of your book. And I'm here today to convince you that as an industry, it's imperative that we elevate our understanding of what it can mean to be an individual contributor in customer success. So I'm here to help you emanate executive leadership in your current roles. Okay. Because as an industry, I think we're getting our career trajectories a little twisted. And this might be a hot take, but for anyone out there like me who loves customer success, the craft, hearing this might come as a big relief for you. So today's presentation, I'm splitting into two parts. First, we're going to explore the risks of what happens when we don't assume executive leadership in our current roles as ICs. We can, for example, fall victim to the performing IC to people leadership pipeline, right, which is super tempting, or accept a CSM job that's actually a tech support job or a sales job in disguise. Okay, so this is all about really honing in on what it means to be an IC. The second part of today's presentation will be about tactical things that you can start doing right now to elevate your role as an IC and act as CEO of your book. So it's time that we challenge the scope of what it means to be an individual contributor. I think that today we're getting it wrong. Okay, so that's my hot take. So if you're anything like me, the last line left you feeling a little triggered, right? We're getting it wrong. So I'm going to get out the receipts, all right? Strong tactical or strategic performers are not necessarily strong people leaders, right? Examples of a hard skill would be technical expertise, problem solving, drive for results, taking initiative, all that good stuff. Whereas soft skills are going to be things like communication, development of others, trust, right? My best and most favorite leaders, they are able to trust. Company tenure and book performance can be leverage points to ensure salary expectations can be met. That is an entirely separate session I would love to do for you sometime, all about fair compensation and feeling well compensated for the work that we do and the impact that we have on big revenue numbers. But that's a story for a different day. But there are some industry leaders who are actually paying their ICs more than their bosses. Pretty wild stuff. A 2015 Gallup analytics assessment showed that companies failed to choose the right candidates for leadership positions 82% of the time. Those are big numbers. 82% of the time, companies fail to choose the right candidates for leadership positions. So we got to be careful. And in 2021, only a third of employees are engaged at work. And that's due to reasons like clarity of expectations, opportunities for development, your opinion counting at work. So without the inevitability of growing into leadership positions, exploration of our innate talent and how we best fit into a work environment can take place. So this is an exciting thing. It's also really expensive, right? Getting it wrong for employers, for employees. It's stressful, it's emotional, it's scary. And for those who do step into leadership positions and then step away, they often face criticism, which is totally unnecessary, right? So all of this said, oh yeah, and don't take my word for it, by the way, do your own research. All of this is included. The research is very, very interesting, super compelling stuff. Please take some time with this when we do get our slides out to you guys. There's some really, really interesting stuff to dig into here. But enough about talking about what we may not be. What I encourage you to lean into is what you inherently are. What are you good at? What tasks or activities energize you and what leaves you feeling drained? Okay, we've been touching on this a lot today, and my wonderful colleague Nicole, who made her debut performance as a speaker today at the summit, talked all about productivity. And when we are aligned with our passion and our purpose, I would argue that's another tip for productivity, right? So pay attention to those things. But focusing on what you are, there are a lot of different talent assessments out there. I'm a big fan of Gallup's Clifton Strengths Finder tools. They personally helped me direct and guide me on my professional journey and better understanding my professional profile. Whatever works for you works for me, right? That's not a plug for Gallup, but it was super helpful early days in my career to find out what kind of a professional I was. So if this is your first time seeing this framework, they've broken down strengths into 4 different themes: strategic and executive, which can be centered more around those hard skills, and then influencing and relationship building, which center more around soft skills. Okay, all of them are important. All of them are great. And a really well-rounded team will have all of these skills represented, right? We want to be like the pointy star. We don't want to be a perfect circle. Everybody can be great at what they do best. But for this session, I really want to double click into how we can lean on our executing skills to be more effective CSPs. So that's where we're looking today. And that's because there are some really strong parallels between CEO and IC that I think deserve our attention. So let's start with a basic definition of what a CEO means. So I pulled this straight from google.com. All right. The CEO is the highest ranking executive of any company. They're responsible for ensuring that the business operates at a profit and meets its goals. They need to know how best to approach new opportunities, including delegating tasks or directing agendas to drive profitability. Meanwhile, an individual contributor, if I change 2 or 3 words of that description, the IC is the highest ranking executive of any book of business. They are responsible for ensuring that the customer operates at a profit and meets their goals. They need to know how best to approach new opportunities, including delegating tasks or directing agendas to drive profitability. I mean, the parallels are there, right? Undeniable. And you can talk to me all the time about the differences too, but this is really worth leaning into here. So if this concept excites you and you're on board to try it, let's begin by exchanging an individual contributor mindset with an individual leadership mindset. So here are a few of my rules of the road in migrating kind of that thought process in your brain. Okay, so I'm going to go through a few of my rules of the road here. Affirm executive alignment before setting goals. Okay, what does that mean? That means that before I can go and be an executive and go tackle my book and take agency and do what I know needs to be done, are my goals even aligned with my leaders? Right? Even a CEO has a board of directors to report back to. So that high level alignment is so critically important. Before we go marching on with our orders to go make it happen, align at the executive level with your leadership before setting and going after those goals. And this next part is important too. Right size them when appropriate. I've had a few leaders, right, where I've had goals and I've said, shoot, I'm an ambitious person, but this feels out of scope. That context and feedback is very, very valuable for your leaders and your executive team. If you know you're going to miss that by leaps and bounds, speak up, right? That's a conversation worth having. The next rule of the road, advocate in a professional manner for your customer. It's not personal, it's business. I come from a customer experience background. I got my start in tech in a support capacity, and then migrated into this, a more revenue-driven role. But at the time, it was really, really easy for me to fall into this customer feedback emotion. I was like a sponge grabbing onto all of that customer sentiment. It's not personal, it's business. Okay, so advocate in a professional manner for your customer. Exercise boundary setting. Again, this is a whole nother talk that I could do about setting boundaries with yourself, with your calendar, with your customers, with your colleagues. It's critically important because we know that if we're going to have any kind of longevity in this industry, we have to know how to say no, or not right now, or is there someone else better suited to handle this? That doesn't fall into my 5 pillars of strategic impact. And then commit to behaviors that showcase your executive prowess. Operate in a can't not do mindset. Okay, what would happen if you believed that you could achieve anything? I'm not saying, you decide for yourself, but I'm just saying, what would happen if you operated in that way at work? You'd break down walls. Just think about it, right? Noodle on it. Don't gatekeep effective growth methods. We've talked a lot. I loved that last panel with Kristen crew, all about elevating one another, being a leader in our roles. Bring your peers along with you to the top, okay? If you find something that's successful and effective, share that around. And this next line is a little bit, it can be a little bit triggering for some, but don't be afraid to manage up. And that's because we know great leaders have amazing soft skills, ideally, but they might not have the hard skills, and that's okay. They're there to enable and empower us to do the great work that we do every day. So sometimes maybe it is worth just saying, hey, I think there's probably something that maybe you haven't learned yet. Why don't I show you? This next one is, I'm pulling directly from our friend, Brene Brown. I watched a video clip of her recently from her new Atlas of the Heart special on HBO. And she was talking about how resentment does not belong in the family of anger. It's actually a function of envy. And that really changed a lot of the way that I perceive my own resentment. If I look at someone and I say, oh, their salary, or oh, their title, that is an indicator that I need to listen to what I want that I don't currently have. So pay attention to your feelings of resentment because they are big messengers and they will help guide you on the way. Know your worth, communicate it respectfully, know the market value of your skill set. If you don't know what you should be earning per hour, what you want to be earning per hour, go on Glassdoor, figure out what the average market value of your skill set is, communicate that respectfully and in business terms. And then finally, ICs achieve a lot in their second, third, fourth years and beyond. So in the same way in customer success, where we ask our customers, what would it take to keep you on as a customer forever? Your employer should know that about you and how to retain you too. And if they don't, figure that out, have that conversation. Might be awkward, but I'm encouraging you to have it. Okay. So I mentioned tactical tips earlier in this discussion. So let's talk about those next. My first tactical tip is learn to speak the language and then diversify your impact. So the common language here at Client Success is NRR, or net revenue retention. And you guys, NRR is giving, all right? So pay attention. We have 4 different areas of impact when we're measuring net revenue retention, but let's get into it. So NRR is the sum of all renewals, churn, upsell, downsell. Okay, so that's 4 different areas of the business that we can impact. And if you can picture it, with an NRR over 100%, a business can grow and be profitable, even if there are no new customers. It's pretty cool. So in the area of renewals, manage them early, right? Ask your customers directly if their intent is to renew or not. And if not, what would it take to change their mind, right? Ask the direct questions. Be that executive person where you're planning that conversation in advance. For churn, and I have to give credit to the wonderful Christy Falterisa for this. I heard her say this on a call one time and just melted. It was so good. I would be remiss if I did not ask, is it too late to save this partnership? Ugh, it's poetry. And sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no, but we don't know unless we ask. So be brave. Upsell. Act in awareness of the commercial offerings you have in your toolkit. What would bring additional value to your customer? Right. We've talked a lot about, I mentioned James earlier, maybe was talking about commercial confidence, and Jason, excuse me, and how that, this perception of salespeople is not so great. But this is an awesome opportunity. There are things in our toolkit that we can offer to our customer that's going to provide them with additional value. That's a good thing. And then downsell. It happens, but we are wasting money if we don't learn from it. So find a way to effectively measure your losses before trying to solve the problem, right? Find a way to measure it. All right, tactical tip number 2, quit trying to solve today's problems. Make decisions for the future state of your customer partnerships, right? Quit living in the moment because you're always going to be behind. Updating your book's forecast is the best way to provide value to your boss and your boss's boss. If you know someone's churning out, communicate that right away. Nobody wants that kind of a surprise. Be realistic about your forecast. Avoid making rosy projections like, oh, that customer's fine. We haven't heard from them in months, but it's okay. Making rosy projections will harm your revenue accuracy later. So don't do it. I like to have answers before the questions are asked. So if an account is at risk, what's my plan? What help do I need from my executives or other team members? Okay, so having those solutions prepared to speak to, at least a couple of ideas to throw out there, can get a conversation going. And forecasts can be personal too. In my experience, aligning on timeline is always the hardest part of career development. So we can't necessarily snap our fingers, change the current state, but we can communicate openly about where we want to go and how we hope to get there. Okay, but have patience. Enjoy this process. We're in this because we love serving customers. We love being helpful and trusted advocates for our customers in their journey. But please use the PTO. Plan it. Look ahead. You all, this is hard work that you're doing. And if you don't choose a day to rest, your day to rest will choose for you. Okay. So forecasting in all of the senses, look ahead, right? Plan for the future, because if we're planning for today, we're already too late. So I'm going to tell a quick personal story about my own journey. To be completely honest, I don't know if people leadership is in my future. I like doing a lot of different things, but I don't want it to be the inevitability, right? I've heard from select brave people that managing people distracts them from doing craft, that they're afraid they'll be the kind of terrible manager maybe they've had in the past. And I agree with them that too much emphasis is placed on titles, right? In air quotes. And not enough on matching a person's talent with how they spend their time. So when I was brought on at Client Success to manage the company's largest territory, I started panicking. And that's not because I didn't think I could do the job. I knew that I could. I panicked because I landed my dream job of the moment. I couldn't imagine what could possibly come next. I'm a planner and an achiever. So complacency it freaked me out. It was not an option. So I had to create my own plan for who I would become and who I would grow into, because the traditional trajectory didn't necessarily feel like a fit for me. So step 1 was self-discovery. And this sounds really hard, but to simplify, I had to understand my stressors, what motivates me, what kind of tasks led me to feel empowered and helpful and fulfilled. I needed help identifying these areas. So I'm grateful and fortunate to have a wonderful partner who nudged me in the right direction one day after I hosted a product masterclass and was like, hey, you sound really energized. Like, that's noteworthy. Pay attention to that. So at that point, I knew that my path needed to include some component of customer marketing. I love being on webinars, right? So next I opened the dialogue with my boss, Christy. I told her I was exploring ideas of where I wanted to take my career and asked for her help. So she introduced me to several other ICs in more specialized roles in customer success, just to give me exposure. So I didn't find a role that felt like a perfect fit for now. And that's totally okay. Out of one of those conversations, I got some of the best advice that I've ever received as an IC. And that's to go look at C-level roles on LinkedIn and build your dream list of responsibilities, right? So you're operating at that executive level, but you don't necessarily need to get, distracted by these titles and so on in the traditional growth trajectory. So I began to draw a picture of what my future state of work would look like. Okay. This new understanding of where I was going gave so much meaning to my days. I felt less panicked. My performance improved. I proudly exercised agency in doing what I knew needed to be done to improve my customer partnerships. Okay. So these are my four small steps. And I'm just now noticing I'm over time, but I want you to win. I want us all to win. So I started today's session saying that I want economic opportunities for everyone. That includes you. It is my hope that you took something away from today's session that helps empower you to take control of your futures, stop employee burnout in its tracks, place the right professionals in leadership or support positions, and of course, help elevate the way our teams and communities regard the individual contributor role. So the leadership path, absolutely a viable one. And to be perfectly honest, again, haven't ruled it out for myself, but right now for today, my focus is on being the absolute best IC I can be. And that commitment has proven to be more rewarding and validating than I could have ever imagined. So I don't think that we'll have any time for questions, but I would love to continue the conversation with you on LinkedIn. I'm always so happy to connect with others in the community and just wish you the best of luck in your future. So thanks so much for having me, you guys.
KGP, thank you so much for that. It's wonderful, I think, not only to just hear you talk about this journey and kind of how you think about things. You are probably one of the top performers I've worked with as a leader and had the privilege of leading. And you do take a very unique approach to really owning and being accountable for the work that you need to do and your contributions to the business as a whole. What is it, how are you thinking about this? How are you wrapping your head around the scope of the role that you have in front of you and operating the way that you do? What is it that keeps you motivated and inspired to do the work at the output that you do?
Yeah, I operate with a sense of urgency, and I don't really know where that comes from, but I think that I feel, and this is likely thanks to the two people on the stage right now, I feel that I have autonomy and the ability to have a direct impact on the business. So that's really compelling for me. So if you are a leader in the audience today, loop your team members in, delegate, ask them what they want to pick up, because I feel so invested in the success of this business that it does help put a fire in my belly when it comes to managing my book and my priorities. So that's what I would say. I would say, make people's opinions count. I always feel heard, and that does give me very special a sense of ownership over the business and your trust, of course.
Excellent. I love, one of my favorite, anybody on my team over years knows one of my favorite statements is, excel in your current role and show thought leadership outside your role. KGP, you're a perfect example of that. And I love how you shared that advice to others, is just find where you have passion, find where you can be you, and then just flourish there and thrive there. And stop chasing titles, stop trying to climb a ladder that doesn't feel natural or exciting to you, and just follow your passion. So thanks for being a great example and inspiration in that regard.
Thank you for the platform. I hope everyone can find the trajectory that feels like a fit for them.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
KGP.
Thank you. Excellent. So Dave, let's just recap a little bit for today before we hop into our next panel.
Yeah, let's do it.
Give me your take. How's the content been for you? What are some major takeaways?
I love it. I love I just love the diversity of thought and the passion that everybody's brought. I love like I said, I feel like we've focused a lot on soft skills today.
Yeah.
which I think is so important and sometimes overlooked, and just really excited about what these passionate, excellent professionals have brought to the table today.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're not alone in that. Yeah. It seems like the entire community and all the folks that have participated in today's event so far have also felt really inspired about the diversity of folks that we brought to these conversations. And just hearing the different experiences and expertise. And so really thrilled that that was something that the team emphasized when they put together the show. But we're not done.